We're drafting simultaneous Pomeranian drafts on RotoViz Radio.
What's up, RotoViz?
RotoViz Radio. We are getting crazy here to the point that I stumbled through the intro, Curtis, and that's because we are going to simultaneously draft two squads in the Pomeranian on Underdog. The Pomeranian 3. For those of you that do not listen every week and wanted to check out this madness, I am Dave Caban alongside Curtis Patrick. We are two of the owners at RotoViz where things are absolutely in full swing. So we're celebrating it by getting crazy here.
Yeah, man, this is great. Of course, we've been hammering all the great options for tournaments at Underdog Fantasy this offseason and FFPC as well. Tonight's an Underdog night. You may have been watching Calm Kelly and Zach Kruger on our Best Ball show every week, but Dave and I are going to throw our hats in the ring here. Pomeranian 3 opened up, I think, today. It's already got almost 23,000 entrants, Dave. So we're going to have to, I'm working hard to make sure that I max out the 15 entries despite the other 70 or 80 that are in my Underdog Fantasy queue right now. And I know you're going to want to max it out too. So we're at least going to get 2 in here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's just see how efficient we can be knocking a couple of these things out. And please let me know if you can see everything. Okay. I think that's going to be an okay size for people to follow along. Okay. Well, let's enter this first one.
So can I just say one thing here?
Do your thing, man.
See your whole broadcast window is up. Oh, you probably are operating on one screen, so we're gonna have to have that up, huh?
We're just gonna have to do it. But I can probably make things smaller here. Hold on.
That's all right.
Let's go even. Is that better?
Yeah, that's a little better. Yep. So for those of you at home listening to the podcast, this is an episode where we will admit would probably be better if you were watching. Than listening.
Only listenable. It's only listenable if you're watching.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the replay Dave, will be available. Yep.
Dave, this is a little nuts, man. We drew 10 and 12, so we're gonna be on top of each other here a little bit. But it's okay. So Sean Siegel posted an article within the last week about bailing yourself out of a late draft position, and that it actually may be helpful in some circumstances. Now, just a reminder, with Underdog and the Pomeranian 3 being no different, we're in half PPR and we've got no tight end premium. So vastly different from the FFPC requirements here. And then also, we do have the start 3 wide receiver requirement. So being at the end of the draft, potentially starting with a wide receiver plus a tight end, double tapping elite wide receiver, if a couple were to fall there. Those, certainly put us onto some structural based plays, or we could go for an anchor RB build, and we're off and running, man. These things are live. We're 101 in one draft and we're already at 104 in the other. So we'll see which one goes OTC first here. Dave's probably going to be about 2 minutes. Any thoughts drafting from the end of the first round here?
I actually have gotten used. Well, I normally like drafting at the end, and I kind of have gotten accustomed to it. I think lots of times what you are able to do is somehow. What's so funny, Curtis?
1-5 in the draft that we picked 12th in. The 1-5 team name is Enormous PP.
Okay,
so just on a Monday, that's catching me funny. So we'll see here.
Yep. Anyway. What I was going to say was that sometimes you get lucky. One of those running backs can kind of drop late, like a Derrick Henry or Najee Harris, somebody of that kind. You can sandwich them together with one of these really solid wide receivers, or you can find yourself having the opportunity to get like a Mike Williams and a Michael Pittman together, have some upside built in that way. So I definitely don't mind it. Or you could go the Travis Kelce route, right? Get him in there with another player to kind of have that tight end position addressed.
I gotta cut you off. We got 30 seconds. We're on the clock at 110 in the first draft. It's either Travis Kelce or Devonte Adams. You take your pick.
Devonte Adams.
Okay, we're gonna go Devonte in that one. Let me flip over. Instead of sharing both windows, I'm gonna try to be efficient and keep hopping back and forth. Okay, we're on the clock in the 112 now. We've got Devonte Adams, Joe Mixon, CD Lamb, DeAndre Swift.
Let's do CD.
Let's do CD here. Okay. All right, and we're up again at the 2-1 because that's how it works. We want to go wide receiver, or do you want to mix in?
Let's go Saquon. Mix in Saquon.
Okay. Sean mentioned Saquon is having, kind of that elite league-winning upside versus some of the other backs available in this area in that article. And so, I don't mind that at all. I've actually not been Saquon of late. Okay, we're one pick away. Now we're on the clock at 2-3. This is the draft that we started with Devonte Adams. We've got Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, Deebo Samuel.
Thinking Deebo.
Okay, the wide receiver start. Yep. I don't mind it at all. So in that draft, I'm kind of thinking, looking at the pick 34. If we look at the underdog ADP and the applet, that's going to put us in the range of potentially getting DJ Moore or Cortland Sutton for that 3 wide receiver start in that build. And we could follow in round 4 with either a 4th wide receiver that can rotate into the flex and cover our buys, or, we could opt for Breece Hall, Travis Etienne there, and try to get some of that running back youth in. And then, there's always a chance that, and I don't know if it'll happen based off how he's playing tonight, but there's a chance that Kyle Pitts might be available to us late in round 3 there too, which would be pretty exciting.
Yes, it definitely would. Now, one of the interesting things, Curtis, to me this summer has been how in these different contests, ADP has tended to be a little bit different between the contests. We're still seeing things settle out. That said, the players at the top kind of have been pretty similar. So I guess one question that I'm just going to float out while we wait to pick is, do you have any tricks as to how you differentiate your squads and you just keep drafting the same teams over and over?
No, I think I'm playing such high volume. I'm closing in on 400 teams this offseason now. I'm playing so much volume that I think draft slot is providing me with the variance that I'm seeking. But
for sure,
for somebody who's playing, a more traditional, amount of volume, let's say, even for, I think a first time best ball degenerate, 10 drafts or, less than 50, let's say, I think it makes sense to kind of have that core, people who have played DFS for years, you kind of have that core that you're building around, and then you're getting in every possible iteration of potential upside players. It's kind of the same idea here. There's 2 or 3 players that I'm pretty excited about in each round. And if I can get one of them, I'm not afraid to take them, even if it leaves me pretty exposed. Case in point, we've talked about on the podcast a couple times in the last week, I've got 30% Allen Lazard. I've got over 20% Kyle Pitts. I've got over 20% Tyreek Hill. You get some of those situations where you're on a player so much versus ADP that, you just tend to continue to have them on a lot of squads. So it doesn't scare me. But again, I think volume is also saving me from ridiculous exposures of, 50% plus.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, some of that kind of inherently happens because you're getting different spots in each draft, and that will impact how you're able to put your team together. So right now you're dropping into our queue on the team that has Adams and Samuel. We've started off with the 2 wide receivers. So you have Pitts, DJ Moore, Travis Etienne, Marquise Brown, Gabe Davis, and Breece Hall. I personally here, well, one of those names just popped away there. I think go ahead, Curtis.
These drafts, by the way, you'll see when I flip to the other window, they're going way different. The players available to us at the end of round 3 are going to be vastly different. It's pretty interesting. So
yep.
It does look like this one will be the first. We're up next. Man, if Pitts falls here, he's my pick. Oh, he goes 3-9.
Yep.
Okay. So we've got Etienne, Marquise Brown, Gabe Davis, and Breece Hall. I like both of these young backs enough that I wouldn't mind getting one of them to go with our 2 wide receivers. Do you have a preference between Etienne or Breece here?
I say let's go Breece. Let's swing for the fences.
Okay. Let's flip over to the other window. We are going to be on the clock immediately. Okay, we are on the clock. We have the exact same 4 guys in the queue. It ends up. Okay, so this was the build where we started with Saquon and CD.
Yep.
So do you want Brees again, or we want to go a different direction?
No, I'd like to go a different direction. I'd like to go back to wide receiver. I actually think that I'm inclined to say Gabe Davis here over Marquise Brown.
Okay, let's go. I think, and then we get to double tap there. So you want to go Hollywood or Brees in round 4? I want to go Hollywood, I think.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Sean just wrote an article that I really enjoyed, talking about how to like rescue a draft when you do everything wrong. And he actually started that draft with a 2-2 positional exposure between running back and wide receiver. And so, there are ways to bail yourself out, as you can find through some of our best ball research tools, but it's pretty hard versus, being at 1 and 3 or having that elite tight end in there. So we're back over, Dave, to the team where we're picking from the 10th position. We started Devonte, Debo, and Brees Hall, and we have ETN and Gabe Davis there. It looks like we're going to have another share of Gabe Davis, I think.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. I think at this point, given the fact that we already have the running back in there, and that we're able to get Davis as the 4th player on our team, I think that's definitely how I would make that decision there. Now, one of the things that you talked about is how you use the tools to recover when you've gotten off to a bad start. Now, some of this comes down to the idea that there are certain points in the draft where you take certain positions, and the number of players you take at these positions are going to impact what your win rates can look like. These are things that are very hard to get your head around until you actually go into the tools and play with them. But if you started off with a running back in round 1, a running back in round 3, you can enter that information into the roster construction explorers, look at some of the other parameters you could play with, and see how you might be able to recover on that win rate.
Dave, we've actually got a comment coming in here through YouTube. There are 278 teams in the final week, so it's about the best correlations and stacks for week 17 to win the tournament. Of course, you need a team to come through the weeks. Yeah, and this has been a big topic in the best ball tournaments versus, just playing a lot of different leagues. And so I appreciate this question coming in. For me, if we have the opportunity to stack without forcing it, certainly want to explore that. And I am, looking for ceiling with all of these players. And, of course, I think when we can break ties by selecting players in elite offenses versus teams with weaker quarterbacks, et cetera, I think all of that comes into play. But I'm not going to be hell-bent on trying to, stack, 3 deep or 4 deep in a single offense, or even worry about those week 17 matchups. A lot can happen, and defenses and offenses can get pushed off. Injuries occur. And, there's always surprise teams that, you're not necessarily ready for. So I'm not trying to engineer something off of week 17. I want to build the best team that I can. And those good players that get us into the playoffs are also going to help us win in the final week.
Yeah, I kind of think it's a fool's errand to try and base everything off of that week 17. Look at how difficult it is to accurately project that those 17 games leading up to there with the projections that people do every year. So that can definitely lead you astray. I like what you said about when they fall into place naturally, that's when you do it. And I do think as you're building out your teams, you want to make sure that you're getting exposed to a lot of different types of stacks, but basing everything around week 17, I don't think is the way that you're going to be doing this, especially if you're playing high volume. Some people might disagree with me, but I'm not sure that that's the way I would contextually look at it.
All right, so let's get back to our drafts here. We are 6 picks away, and we are 6 picks away in the draft where we're selecting from the 12th position. So let's build our queue. This is the squad where we started Saquon, CD, Saquon, Gabe Davis, Marquise Brown. I think Kittle to give us that last potential elite tight end makes some sense. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Darnell Mooney, AJ Dillon, Elijah Moore, Trey Lance. We're going to have a double tap there at the turn. So I like getting Ayuk and Lazard in there. Anybody else that is showing up in the list here that you would want in our queue?
At this point, I think the only other player I might toss into there would be Jalen Hurts. Given the research that we've looked at this year and the different configurations I played around with in the tools, I do place a lot of emphasis on getting a solid passer early on. We can see that, that is something that does boost win rates, contrary to what you might intuitively think. So we're going to be up in the 1 pick. At this point, Curtis, I actually would be kind of interested in one of those passers, especially since we have the double tap here. I'm thinking go with a passer, and then I'll let you kind of give me your thoughts on the other position.
Oh man, we're going to be up simultaneously in the 2 drafts. So, okay, we're on the clock in this one. Jalen Hurts went. So you want to take Trey Lance with one of those picks?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. And we're going to be on the clock.
Should we stack him with Ayuk?
Yeah, I don't mind that. Let's just do that and get it out of the way. The other draft, we're on the clock. I do not have time to switch over. Chris Godwin or AJ Dillon?
Go AJ Dillon.
Okay. I like that with Breece Hall in that one. So let's review the teams after this 603 pick comes off the board. Let me switch over to that draft here, and we'll review both teams and think about what's going to be available in these slots in rounds 7 through 10 and kind of reverse engineer our strategy. Okay, so this is the squad. We've now got a 2-3 build through 5 rounds. At running back, we've got Breece Hall and AJ Dillon, and at wide receiver, we've got Devonte Adams, Deebo Samuel, Gabriel Davis. I'm really hoping Chris Godwin falls to us here. He does. If you're okay waiting,
definitely.
Let's go Godwin, and then that's a natural segue into the next steps here. So one thing that we find in best ball that's very effective is to draft 2 quarterbacks, within the window. Is what essentially we're referring to. And for Dave and I, we've kind of stated that window probably ends at Aaron Rodgers or maybe at Kirk Cousins. For us, everyone's going to define that window a little bit differently. Some say it stops before that, and some extend it down to include Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. But everyone kind of agrees that there is that kind of cliff that falls to where you feel like you've got to take 3 quarterbacks. So on this squad, we don't have a quarterback yet, and we're not going to have an opportunity to select one until the 7th round. We're going to be talking about adding some quarterbacks into this queue and try to pull that off. It's going to look like these guys, trying to get 2 of them before they're all gone, and we'll end it with Cousins here.
Yeah, and when he's saying these guys, it's Trey Lance, Joe Burrow, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Prescott, Stafford, Carr, Rodgers, Cousins.
So just kind of looking at these guys, having Chris Godwin, and this goes back to the question that was asked in the YouTube chat, with Chris Godwin already on the squad, Tom Brady is of particular interest. He has a lot more fantasy upside than Derek Carr does, even though Carr would also represent a stack with Devonte Adams in this case. So Brady's of particular interest to me when we get into that 7-8 turn on this squad. We also do not have tight end yet on this squad or the other squad. So, normally we're on elite tight end. It did not fall to us that way on either of these squads. So we're going to get a couple of these guys at this position loaded in here that we like, just so we don't forget to build it out. And then, from a wide receiver perspective, we know that we're going to want to have 5 wide receivers by round 10. That's what we really try to adhere to. And, luckily we've already got 4 of those. And so I'm going to put a mix of volume and upside into the queue. And then, we'll pull from that.
So when you say you're putting a mix of upside and volume into the queue, can you break down how you're doing that?
Yeah. So looking for some uncertain wide receiver rooms, and then also some offenses where we can infer that there will be volume available. So Kadarius Toney is an upside volume play because the New York Giants wide receiver core is highly unsettled, and then he goes. But I also had Christian Kirk, Hunter Renfrow, and Robert Woods there. I'm gonna have to flip over to the other draft now, though, Dave, because we're gonna be on the clock. So here we go. This is gonna be rapid fire again. So we're gonna be on the clock at 7:12. Again, we already have Trey Lance on this squad. We still want to do 2 quarterbacks in the window. We have the option of Tom Brady on this team. We also see Tony Pollard and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm interested in one of those to go with Saquon as our RB2. Do you have a preference between Pollard and CEH here?
I'm saying CEH.
Okay, let's go there. And then we get to stack that up. Oh, we're on the clock in the other one too. All right. I'm going to go Tom Brady in that other draft to go with Chris Godwin and buy us a minute.
Yep.
Again, now we're back on the clock here. Do we want to go Brady, Pollard?
Well, let's see the quarterbacks quickly.
It's got 12 seconds. We've just got, I mean, for me, it's Brady.
Go Brady. Yep.
We can stack Julio in there later if we need to. So, okay, let's flip back to the other window. This is pretty fun. We should have done 3 drafts. That's what I had proposed.
Well, I don't know how we could possibly make this work for our podcast listeners with the 3 drafts.
I think it would just be fun to watch us scramble. Okay, so we're going to be up at 8-3 reviewing this squad. We do have Brady in there now. We still do not have a tight end. So it's going to come down to, do we want to add in Robert Woods as our wide receiver 5? He'll be about a round early versus ADP. We could take Dak Prescott, even though he would be naked here. I think I like him the best of the remaining quarterbacks.
Right.
TJ Hawkinson is also an option at tight end. And then the best, we have CEH available in this build too, but he would be our RB3. And this build started weaker with us waiting for Breece Hall. So I think that's interesting too.
I think that we have the most to lose here by not going with a quarterback.
Even though we have Brady?
Even though we have Brady, I still think, because I think wide receiver is kind of at the point where I'm not that interested. I think that we're getting the most benefit here from going with the quarterback. So I would say either Burrow or Prescott. I'm
going to go Prescott. Okay, so we're done at quarterback on this squad, which feels great.
Now, one thing I'm sorry to cut you off there, but I will mention is that if there's a position that you have to punt on, the one that I do like punting on the most is tight end. And at the end of the draft, just grabbing 3 scrub tight ends, because what we're seeing is you can actually, in a number of builds with your last couple of picks being tight ends, you end up having teams that do okay because you're so strong in other positions. It's a little bit easier to backfill those with 3 than it is with quarterbacks.
So we're going to go ahead and put some of those guys in now before I forget. My favorite guys to target late at the position are Gerald Everett, Hayden Hurst, Evan Ingram, and Austin Hooper.
Yes, sir.
So I want to make sure that we get maybe two of those 4. And we'll probably grab that first one in round 10 or 11. The way things will probably
interesting thing that has happened with tight end is when the puppies started rolling out, Pat Freiermuth was going around round 9 or ADP of 9 for tight end. We're now seeing him sometimes 13 or 14, which I think has presented a really interesting opportunity to get in on Freiermuth. As I think that a lot of the players that he's going around, you could argue he has more upside than, especially heading into this year. So he's a name that I'm watching for now on my boards.
All right. I'm just keeping us on track by taking out all of the quarterbacks from both of these queues, and I'll share screens here in a minute. Maybe share some thoughts on some of your favorite targets in rounds 9, 10, 11 here, Dave, while I'm doing some of this administrative cleanup.
Yeah. So, one name that I did see there, you can get around here is Zach Ertz. Now, one reason that I like Ertz is he's an easy way to pair somebody that could get a lot of volume with Kyler Murray. So he's a name that I have on my board. I would feel that he could be finishing in the same spot as a couple of the players that go around him in tight end ADP, but maybe a round or 2 prior. So that's a name that I'm definitely paying attention to. Other players that you might see in the round 9 and 10 stretch. I'm trying to recall specifically off the top of my head here, Curtis. So I might have to read off round 12 players.
That's okay. I can share some of that. For me in those rounds at wide receiver, the guys that I've been on lately have been Chase Claypool, Julio Jones, and Garrett Wilson. Those are the 3 wide receivers that I really like there, particularly in round 10. At tight end, if we were going to go that direction, you're really talking Ertz and Cole Kmet. And then at running back in this range, it is kind of that next value range. Of late, I've seen Rashad Penny falling into that area. a little bit more often, but you have your choice of Buffalo Bills running backs and Singletary and Cook, who I do both think will provide some value this year. Melvin Gordon has continued to slide. Cordero Patterson, and then our favorite, shared favorite there, Dave, is Darrell Henderson. So these are, all players that I think would fit both of these builds for sure. I'm trying to see. Okay, we're going to be on the clock at 9:12 for the double tap. So let's get back over to that draft. And man, these things are both humming. Okay, we're on the clock. This is the squad with no tight end yet. We could go Ertz with one of these picks, since you mentioned him.
Yep.
And then I think the other one that I like here is Julio for our 5th wide receiver by round 10 and pairing him with Brady. I like that a lot if you're on board.
Yeah, I am on board with that. Okay, and so I think, go ahead, Curtis.
We got to go back over to the other one.
Yep.
Hold on just a second.
As you can see, you do enough of these underdog drafts here in rapid succession. Yes. You're not going to get caught off guard in your draft.
Okay, 16 seconds. We need the tight end here as well. We can go Ertz, best available at other positions. We've got Singletary, Walker, Melvin Gordon. 5 seconds.
Make it easy. Go Dawson Knox.
Oh boy. Did I get it off?
Or whoever.
Oh, I got it with 1 second. Okay.
That was close.
Oh boy. All right.
I just wanted to switch it up a little bit there.
Thanks for the fair warning. Okay. So so we don't have to worry about the potential to double tap tight end here with Ertz. I would like to hit, that 5th wide receiver here if possible. We're going to have Julio available to us in this draft as well. And we did take Brady, so we could have that rolling through as a theme. I think about the stacking for the final week as well. On this squad, we would actually have Brady, Godwin, and Julio if we went that direction. If you want to veer for a rookie, we could also hit Garrett Wilson or George Pickens if you want to go that direction. I'd support any of it.
Yeah, I actually find the George Pickens pick here just to be so interesting, given what it looks like the upside could be there. Also, I'm interested in getting one of those younger wide receivers on to this squad. However, though, at running back with Hall and Dillon.
8 seconds.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize we were even on right there. Go Pickens.
I took Pickens. Yep.
All right.
I took Pickens. All right. Donovan says light mode. Oh boy. Well, yeah, Donovan, you're going to have to deal with it because I do all of my underdog drafting from my phone, never on the Mac. And so I've never even gone through the steps of switching it. But
all you do is hit the little
there we go.
Light thing.
There we go.
There it is.
Is that more comfortable?
I would actually say
for the viewers.
For viewing purposes, I think that light mode is better right now.
Well, Dave says Donovan doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't use those words, but all right.
Basically did.
Yep. All right. Let's rein this back in for the our fantastic listeners that are only getting audio here, Curtis.
Okay. So we were drafting 2 squads. The one that we started in the 10th position, we have a 2-2-5-1 build. We actually have a 2-2-5-1 build in both of these drafts through 10 rounds. So we are light on running back, but we like the stacks that we've got. From the team from the 110, we've got Tom Brady and Dak Prescott, 2 quarterbacks in the window. We're done in that position. We've got Breece Hall and AJ Dillon at running back. No double ups on the bye weeks there. So if we're going to wait, it's nice to have kind of the elite options on the squad, complementing each other from a bye week perspective. Really like this wide receiver room. We double tapped that position early in the 1st and 2nd round with Devonte Adams and Deebo Samuel, followed it up with Gabe Davis, Chris Godwin, who I think is one of the best values in fantasy right now. And then George Pickens, and we have Dawson Knox as a touchdown upside play. This smells like a squad where we're going to have 3 tight ends. So I really don't mind that. When we flip over to the other squad, and I got to follow along with this for the YouTubers as well. Switch this over. So this was the squad where we're drafting from the 12th position. Again, 2 quarterbacks in the window, Trey Lance and Tom Brady at the position. A little bit earlier on the running back position on this squad with Saquon Barkley, and then we took a swing on CEH here with the uncertainty in Kansas City. It is still, certainly possible that, he is got a firm grasp on the committee there. CeeDee Lamb, Gabe Davis, Marquise Brown, Brandon Ayuk, and Julio Jones. So no rookie wide receivers on this team, but Gabe Davis is kind of that breakout candidate, with the other 4 wide receivers being a little bit more entrenched, and then Zach Ertz with a little bit more tight end upside probably than Dawson Knox. We are going to be on the clock here, Dave, and one more pick. So Pat Freiermuth, who you talked about a little bit earlier, is available to us. Going by ADP, we've got Rachaad White, who would be a different way to play the Tom Brady stack on this squad. Also, Nyheim Hines and Kenneth Gainwell, I think, would interest me at running back. Wide receiver, I think it'd be a little early to go there based off of who's available.
Yep.
So
I'm actually,
I think we take Freiermuth with one, and then you want to take the other.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I actually think that I'd be interested here in getting Rachaad White with the other.
Okay.
Interesting way to play on that Brady stack, as you mentioned. Yeah. Also, getting another young player in here that carries some upside on to the squad. And now I would think that we're effectively done now, at least for a while, at tight end. As far as running back goes, I think that now the question is, do we pivot back to wide receiver, round that out before we come back to running back? Are there any names that are pretty attractive here in the next couple of picks? Obviously, there's Darrell Henderson, who I've been a big fan of. I know that you like as well, and you had mentioned Kenny Gainwell.
Yeah, we're actually on to the other team.
Okay.
At this point, because we're going to be on the clock, but we'll kind of go through reverse engineering the next couple of rounds. We did have a question come in here from Chad. Appreciate that, Chad. Any Panthers late round targets with the Brady Godwin stack? Again, I'm not going to force it. I think it's very possible the Panthers are just bad. And maybe final round Robbie Anderson if he falls. I think also Rashard Higgins is kind of interesting with Baker Mayfield there, but I'm not going to force taking an inferior player just for that week 17 correlation. I really I think it's a little bit overplayed. Okay, we're on the clock now, Dave. Unfortunately, all 3 of our running back targets go in succession right in front of us there. So I don't mind getting Freiermuth here again to stack with Knox, and we'll have a couple picks to decide our follow-up.
That works for me.
So we're going to have Devonte Parker, who I have been taking a fair amount of in this range of late as a touchdown upside. We saw how effective Kendrick Bourne was in the offense last year, but Parker brings the red zone upside and the downfield upside, along with the potential, year 2 leap for Mac Jones. I think is kind of interesting. We still do only have 2 running backs on this team. So, the idea of getting somebody else that will get early season touches in particular to keep us alive, but also that would have some season long upside is intriguing. Brian Robinson is the name that comes to mind of the players who are available here. But, we also have James Robinson, who could keep the pound it and red zone work role for the Jags. And then we've also got the divisive Isaiah Pacheco. So you want to take a pick here at running back?
Yeah, I think here I would go with Robinson.
Which one, James or Brian?
Brian, sorry.
Okay, let's go Brian. All right, there we go. All right, now we got a second to breathe. We will quickly recap this 110 squad. Brady Prescott at quarterback. We now have added Brian Robinson to A.J. Dillon and Breece Hall at the running back position. Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, Gabe Davis, Chris Godwin, and George Pickens at wide receiver. And then we do have 2 tight ends, so we can wait a little bit before revisiting that position with Dawson Knox and Pat Freiermuth. On the other squad from the 112, looking a little bit different. The teams are structured similarly, but just the player exposures are different. Trey Lance, Tom Brady, Saquon Barkley, CEH, Rachaad White, CeeDee Lamb, Gabe Davis, Marquise Brown, Brandon Ayuk, Julio Jones, and then Zach Ertz with Pat Freiermuth. So a little bit of overlap on each squad, but actually positionally built the exact same at 2-3-5-2 through 12 rounds.
Yes, sir. So, in the queue currently, what type of players are we dropping in here? And sorry, I'm actually I'm having trouble here keeping track with these two here.
Yeah, again, we should have tried to do 3 teams. It's been nuts. Okay,
Yeah.
so I think we still need to add in some running back upside. James Robinson and Isaiah Spiller still available here in the team, drafting from the 12th position. A little bit later, we both love Raheem Mostert. I think that's an absolute home run type of play for the squad. And I don't mind, since we're a little behind the position, to actually reach on that play at all. I really don't mind that. We have at wide receiver, it's drying up a little bit. So I want to talk about the types of players that we would want to target. Jameson Williams is a guy. Oh, we're on the clock. Oh boy. Yeah, we're on the clock here. So by ADP, Isaiah Spiller is like a 3-round value almost here. Gerald Everett is a player that we liked. So I also think Gerald Everett followed by Raheem Mostert is pretty interesting.
Yeah, let's give that a shot.
Okay.
Then when we have a minute, I'm going to ask you a question about the Chargers backfield.
Okay. So this team, we're gonna do the long wait. We are at 2-4-5-3 now, done at tight end. Really like this grouping of, we waited on the position and addressed it a little bit later, but Zach Ertz, Pat Freiermuth, Gerald Everett, really like that trio quite a bit, actually. So we can remove the other tight end targets from our queue. And man, I just think that, Raheem Mostert to go with Barkley, CEH, and Rashad White, really like that. Really like that play here. Okay, what did you want to get to topically?
Yes. So I just wanted to ask about the Chargers backfield with the idea that obviously you have Eckler rolling as the one there. Behind him, there's this question of Joshua Kelly versus Isaiah Spiller. Throughout the summer, we've seen Isaiah Spiller have the higher ADP. Things, we'll have to see how they shake out with that. But do you have any particular thoughts on how you might play that backfield going forward?
Yeah, I think my latest thought there is that if Eckler goes down, it's probably just going to mean even more for all the pass catching options. There might be a running back that gets flex worthy, but I just don't know that someone would consolidate enough or hang on to enough of Austin Eckler's core role to matter. We're going to be on the clock here. We'll expand upon that a little bit more in a moment. I actually think Raheem Mostert is a nice target for this squad too. We're kind of drafting 50% of the same team, but again, that's not too surprising given the late draft position in both of these exercises. I don't think we need to take Mostert in the 13th round because we'll be a round early taking him in the 14th. Let's see what we've got available at wide receiver. Nico Collins is a pretty interesting player that I wouldn't mind mixing in here. He helps
for me.
From a
it's
bye week
probably
perspective.
Nico or Landry.
Let's go Nico. Let's keep the youth there and play into maybe Davis Mills not being horrible. And then I think the next pick needs to be Mostert, and we could not chase Gerald Everett on this team. We'll opt for Hayden Hurst or Evan Ingram perhaps the next time we get around to our turn. Okay. So we're starting to veer a little bit. We'll be at 2-4-6-2 here, whereas on the other build we're at 2-4-5-3. That'll put us onto some different late round players to really create a little bit of difference between the two squads. That'll be nice.
Yeah, for sure. Any late round guys currently that you have been grabbing a lot of? I know for me, one of those players had been Amir Abdullah. I'm expecting to start to see that ADP rise up a little bit.
Yeah. Of course, Dave's talking about the Kenyon Drake release earlier today. So yeah, I've been mixing in, super late Jerick McKinnon still. I've been taking some David Bell for the Browns. Those are the two that come to mind. Let's hop over to our other draft as we're going to be on the clock to double tap, and we'll go through a little bit more of that. We are on the clock here. We have TDP available. We've got AJ Green, Jamison Crowder. Any guys sticking out here with 10 seconds?
No, I don't have any strong feelings. So I guess, yep.
I'm going to take TDP.
Do it.
And then we've got a little bit of time. Looking at our structure, we're done at tight end here. I'd really like to go back to the wide receiver position.
Me too.
So for me, it would be, Crowder, AJ Green, or David Bell.
Yeah. So let's list off the wide receivers that we have. Right?
10 seconds.
Oh, sorry. Go David Bell.
Okay, so we'll be early, but we'll get him onto the squad. David Bell joins. This is the team where we didn't have a rookie yet, and we were a little bit more veteran heavy. So David Bell will be our wide receiver 6, joining a squad of CD, Gabe Davis, Marquise Brown, Brandon Ayuk, and Julio Jones.
Right. So I had been tempted to say Jamison Crowder, but given the group of wide receivers that we have, I want to make sure that we inject some of that youth. It's also looking like it could actually be difficult for Jamison Crowder to deliver us a full season, or it's a little bit murky. So I'll take that upside on David Bell.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, the Browns are going to need at least one secondary receiver to go with Amari. I mean, he can't be targeted on every single route there is, and we know that they just don't, unfortunately, throw to the backs very often. David Njoku's getting some preseason hype again this year, but he hasn't really seen projectable volume yet in the Stefanski era. And I don't know. I don't see Jacoby Brissett as a quarterback that's going to get too far into his progressions typically. So David Bell, I think, is a sneaky pick, to be, top 5 in rookie targets this year, perhaps even top 3. But, because he got off to the slow start in camp, wasn't available for the first couple of weeks, even though we loved him from an analytics perspective at RotoViz, he just has kind of lost some of the steam he had back in the spring from a dynasty perspective. And that makes him really sneaky here at the end of drafts.
Yep, for sure. So we are in the other draft, Curtis, or are we almost up on one of these?
We're coming back up in the same in round 15 in the other draft. It's lagging a little bit. So this is the squad where we still need a tight end 3, and this is going to be the round where we want to hit that. I kind of like the idea of going Hayden Hurst here. I think he's actually probably 2022 Dawson Knox. Elite touch, big guy, elite touchdown upside in a really high-powered offense. Not going to be huge from a target market share perspective, but Pat Freiermuth probably will be. I think Freiermuth will have, 15 to 18% target market share. Knox and Hurst will get theirs done with high touchdown rates. So I kind of like the idea of peppering him in here with the other two. And then we're going to want to probably go back to, wide receiver and running back for the remainder of the draft. And of course, Hayden Hurst goes 2 picks before us. So
yes.
Do you want Evan Ingram or Austin Hooper here? Hooper is my 2022 Dalton Schultz. Evan Ingram,
I'd say Hooper actually.
Okay.
And I actually, at one point, Hooper was my most rostered tight end. I had to scale it back.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was just because he was going much later than he should have. I didn't necessarily love Hooper, but if there's a lot of guys in that range that I feel like there's a much better outlook for him. He should have to on some level be involved.
Okay. So for 16-3 on this squad, we're still sitting with 4 running backs: Breece Hall, AJ Dillon, Brian Robinson, and Raheem Mostert. If we were going to go to the running back position, here I wouldn't mind Darrell Williams. If we go with the wide receiver, I like both Paris Campbell and Zay Jones. So any of those 3 stand out for you?
Had you said Williams?
Darrell Williams, Paris Campbell, Zay Jones.
Darrell Williams.
Seconds. Okay. That probably makes sense given the makeup of this team. Let's flip back over to our other draft where we're in round 17 now and see what's cooking over there. One pick away, leaving us plenty of time. So we've got 5 running backs with Saquon, CEH, Rashad White, Raheem Mostert, and TDP. 6 wide receivers with CD, Gabe Davis, Hollywood, Brandon Ayuk, Julio Jones, David Bell. Best available at running back, I would say, Trey Sermon just went and we are now on the clock. So we're talking about probably Jerick McKinnon, but we already have CH on this team. Dearness Johnson, also an interesting play. And then at wide receiver, it's like Velus Jones.
I kind of think this team could use another receiver, so I'd say Velus.
Okay, and we're going to double tap. So right now we're at 2-5-7-3. We can go with the 8th wide receiver or the 6th running back. At running back, it's probably Dearness Johnson or Mark Ingram. And at wide receiver, man, it's thinning out. It's really thinned out. Oh,
yeah, it might be somebody like Kyle Phil. Oh, Ty Montgomery. Yep.
Ty Montgomery. There's Ty Montgomery.
Yes, thank you. That's one of the that's one of those guys I've been grabbing late too. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's it's kind of cheating on Underdog with the wide receiver designation. Yep. So really like this squad. We will criticize ourselves looking back at this fast draft board here in a moment, but we do have 2 picks left to make in the other exercise. It's going to be fun to go back and see what we think when we're not up against the clock here and see how we did. Okay. Oh man, Paris Campbell really sliding in this other draft. He would be really fun to add. He's got to make he goes, of course, the second I mention him. I should have known. Okay, on this squad, Dave, we've got half a round until we're back up. We did just add Darrell Williams here as our RB5. So we've got 2 picks left at a 2-5-6-3 build. I think I could get on board with either 2 wide receivers or a 1-and-1 with running back and wide receiver. Don't think we want to get into a 7 running back build here. I don't think our receivers are quite elite enough to do that. Had we steered away from going Tom Brady, Dak Prescott back to back there in the middle, we might have been able to pull that off. But we went with 2 of the earlier quarterbacks in the window, and I think it prevents us from going that direction. So at wide receiver, we've got Curtis Samuel. We do have David Bell still available in this draft, which would give us some additional overlap with the other team. But I kind of like, I'm assuming Ty Montgomery will also be available if we want to go that direction. And then at running back, if we did want to go there, Trey Sermon, we could play the other side of the San Francisco backfield, which I think would be pretty fun. We do not have CEH on this team, so we could also veer from our CEH play on the other squad and go, well, there goes Jerick McKinnon. So that's no longer an option. Dearness Johnson will be the other name I'll throw in there. So I'll let you pick them, Dave. We've got Curtis Samuel, ahead. David Bell, Ty Montgomery, Trey Sermon.
I almost want to say Ty Montgomery again, but I'm going to switch things up here and say Curtis Samuel.
Okay, so we'll go Samuel, and then hopefully one of these picks will still be available at 18-3 for us.
Yep.
We'll see how that goes.
I also wanted to ask you about Paris Campbell, but I don't know if we have time to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, seems like he finally has his health, which is, that's always been the question. The athletic talent's been there, and it seems like he gets buzzy in the preseason every year. Also, potentially a bit of a quarterback upgrade. They have had Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz in the past 2 seasons, and I think they were both improvements over Brissett in the year before. But Matt Ryan, I think, has additional accuracy still at this phase of his career versus what Wentz brought to the table, or Phillip Rivers at the very end. So like the idea of him being able to get the ball to that receiving core a little bit better than those last 2 guys. All right, Dave, we're at 2-5-7-3. Ty Montgomery or Trey Sermon?
I think that I'd really like to get another wide receiver in on this team. Now, Montgomery, not necessarily going to be getting wide receiver like looks, but I think we will grab him in this league as well.
Okay, well, there you go. A little bit of a hometown favorite there for Dave.
Yep.
To go around 18. And, that also covers our obligatory who are you targeting in the end of drafts question we wanted to answer. So, all right, Dave, let me see if I can get to draft board view on these 2 squads, and we'll run it down, see how we feel about it. Pomeranian 3. I can just do this one team at a time now. It's my draft board view. Here we go. Okay. Awesome radio here while I'm thumbing through all of this stuff. Okay, so this first one, this is the squad where we drafted from 112. And looking at this, let's see if there's anything that we would have done differently. I mean, we were really up against it, obviously, from a timing perspective. We went CeeDee Lamb at 112, followed by Saquon Barkley. Thinking critically, the only other players we really were considering at 2-1 would have been Devonte Adams, who we took in the other draft. And then for me, I actually have Joe Mixon above Barkley. I did mention quickly when we were on the clock that, Sean had mentioned Saquon as being one of those guys that he thinks has the league winning upside. I actually think Mixon does too. He was already a top PPR running back despite kind of pedestrian receiving game usage last year. But the Bengals, if they improved one thing on their team this offseason, it was the offensive line, which is really exciting for Mixon. And we know they're going to be, threatening to score on the majority of their drives this season. So I do like Mixon, but I don't think I have any self-critical notes on CD or Saquon there. We followed it up with Gabe Davis, Marquise Brown, Trey Lance, Brandon Ayuk, CEH, and Tom Brady through kind of the value rounds, round 8. Anything that you like particularly or hate about our approach in the first 8 rounds with our backs against the wall and the tight clock here?
No, there really isn't anything on this team that I really don't like through those first 8 rounds. And I think that for somebody that likes to not invest too heavily into running back, getting somebody like Saquon as the one running back in there, or had it been Joe Mixon, I think I would have felt pretty good about that. So the way that things shook out here, I think it gave us a lot of flexibility as we headed towards the back half of the draft.
Yeah, and we were able to sandwich in, which I'm kind of proud of us for, doing the simultaneous drafts here. We were still able to sandwich in a couple stacks that are interesting in this draft. So we actually went a little early versus ADP on Trey Lance and Brandon Ayuk to get that stack there at the 5-6 turn, and that's okay. I think especially in the tournaments, if you're building around, stack or playoff theory, if you just follow ADP, you might as well be on auto draft. The human element, this is where we have a chance to make a difference. And then we were also able to double stack Tom Brady in this draft without hitting Chris Godwin or Mike Evans earlier on. And we take Brady in the quarterback window, which is a goal. And we've said this multiple times in this episode and on the live stream. If you are going to just go with the 2 QB build, we really would like you to get that second QB by Kirk Cousins at the latest. So we go a little bit earlier there, but we get Tom Brady, Julio Jones, and Rachaad White. With White having a chance to maybe steal some of the passing game work over the course of the season by, being efficient, or, Leonard Fournette having some injury. And, if that happens, Rachaad White is not only just a passing game play, becomes a potential, Tony Pollard type, league winner with the guy in front of him going down. We did go with a 3 tight end build in this one. And I think Ertz, Freiermuth, and Everett are all interesting there. Ertz and Everett both being plays on kind of elite offenses. They're going to score a lot of touchdowns. And then Freiermuth being an earlier career guy who could take a step forward. He was a little overshadowed last year as a rookie because of how excellent Kyle Pitts was. But, the Steelers are going to have improved quarterback play this year pretty much no matter what versus what Ben Roethlisberger brought to the table in 2021. And, with Chase Claypool, now today being basically named the big slot in 11 personnel, man, him and Freiermuth are going to be really difficult for opposing defenses to man up against on the seam. So I think Freiermuth could find himself getting some, wide open stuff, which will be pretty interesting. Looking later in this draft, I think the only pick, I feel like we panicked a little bit when we needed to take TDP.
Mm-hmm.
And But as I look later in the draft, there's not really another running back that went later that would have made a lot of sense for us. We could have, potentially gone after Jerick McKinnon real late, but this is the squad where we had CEH, so that wasn't really in play for us. Zamir White went off the board just before we made this selection. So the only backs going after our TDP pick are Eno Benjamin and JD McKissick within the next couple of rounds. Trey Sermon goes 2 rounds later. I might have preferred that if I could have the pick back, but I just don't know who we would have subbed in there instead. So, you just live with it. San Francisco seems to get a lot of guys, big carries in at least a couple games each year. And that's all we're really looking for from a back that we take in the 15th round. I really like, maybe my favorite thing that we did on this team is how we ended it with the 3 upside wide receivers. We have David Bell, Velus Jones, and Ty Montgomery. I think these are all guys that could post some big numbers in a couple of games that will help us, in the event that, Gabe Davis is a flop and doesn't break out, or, maybe Brandon Ayuk only gives us a couple of games like in Tyler Lockett fashion, just because of all the competition for targets in San Francisco. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with this one, Dave. Anything you want to add on the breakdown for the 112?
I like this team, actually. I like the way that this flowed pretty well. I think that within the confines of the roster construction considerations that we would have, this team ended up working out pretty well. So, all things considered that we were drafting 2 teams at the same time, I like that one.
All right, let's go find our 110, and I'm going to have you take the driver. I'm going to post it on the screen here as long as you can see it okay. I'm going to have you take the driver's seat to break it down. Actually, I'm not seeing it in my completed drafts yet. That's interesting.
All right, well.
Okay, I'm going to keep thumbing through here. You might need to kill a couple seconds here. I wonder if maybe the last team didn't make its pick yet.
I think they would have, given time constraints, I feel like that probably would have to have happened. But while Curtis looks for that, I think the one thing we can talk about a little bit would have been, I think that had we, of the players that were at their running back position after we made that TPD pick, I did that right. Yep, Tyrion Price Davis. JD McKissick, you maybe could have made some type of a case for as a player that should probably be involved, in my opinion. However, though, he might lack that type of upside that you're getting with the pick in the rookie. So that might have been another spot that I would have looked. Now, for a real late round player, I have been getting some exposure to Hassan Haskins, the big bodied rookie out of Michigan, that looks like he'd be able to do some similar things to what Derrick Henry could do in Tennessee. Now, one of the questions would be, will they use Haskins at all if Derrick Henry is unavailable? And that remains to be seen. But so he's one of those names that I am targeting later on in drafts. Curtis, have you been able to find this draft yet?
I'm looking on my phone instead. I think I found it on my phone. It's just weird that it doesn't show up on the Mac. I did find it here, but I'm not going to be able to share it on the screen, unfortunately.
That's fine.
So I'll run it down, and then you can add any commentary that you would like to add. So we were drafting from the 110. We went a different direction here, despite having some options that we like available to us in the second round. With the 4th pick, with the 3rd pick, we stay at the wide receiver position. So we start Devonte Adams and Deebo Samuel. And then rounding out the first 5 rounds, Dave, we go Breece Hall in the 3rd, Gabe Davis in the 4th, and A.J. Dillon in the 5th. So a 2 running back, 3 wide receiver start.
Yeah, and I think we still ended up with a pretty nice group of wide receivers right there. I normally don't address the running back spots on my team quite as early, but I do like what we could get from those backs there. Not being able to see the board, it's hard for me to know if there were any potential missteps that we may have made. Do you have any thoughts on that?
If we look at round 4, taking Gabe Davis, I think that swing made sense for us at the position because we had the safety up front of Devonte Adams and Deebo Samuel. So we felt very empowered to take that swing. Drafting Breece Hall in the third, pretty far in front of his ADP over options like Jalen Waddle and Marquise Brown. And then against other running backs like Travis Etienne, James Conner, Ezekiel Elliott. I just think it's the right type of play. We went double elite wide receiver early. We're really looking to have a team that just runs away with it. We want, this is like drafting Jonathan Taylor, in these rounds, the second round, his rookie season. You're just trying to find that player that is undervalued because of the lack of certainty. And, Breece Hall, he's been ripping some big runs in practice, but, if he really is as good as he looked in college and brings that to the next level, it doesn't matter that the Jets offense hasn't gotten there yet. Like Breece would actually be good enough to help be one of the reasons that they would take the step forward. And if you think about, this team taking a step forward, who a couple years ago would have thought that the Bengals were ready to do it, but they invest the early draft capital in Joe Burrow, they add T. Higgins and Jamar Chase in subsequent years. And then all of a sudden we see Joe Mixon throwing up career seasons. Now it's a little bit different with the years in the NFL arc with a player like Breece Hall, but the principle holds. I mean, the Jets have invested elite draft capital at the wide receiver position to become a more explosive team. And, that will lead to, secondaries paying more attention to these guys, check down opportunities to the running back, and then, presumably more scoring chances, which of course is, especially in a half PPR setup, what we're really looking for. So, double-digit touchdowns for Breece Hall and the New York Jets offense. I don't think, we should be shocked if that happens, even though you wouldn't have thought of any of the running backs having that ability in the past. AJ Dillon, I've been on him and then off him and then back on him again over the course of the season. I think where I'm settling, Dave, a couple years ago, one of my biggest exposures was Kareem Hunt when he was going in the 6th, 7th round of drafts, despite having similar usage and projection to Nick Chubb. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen in Green Bay this year. They are giving us so much signal that this is going to be a truly split backfield. And you get a 3-round discount, almost 4-round discount on AJ Dillon versus Aaron Jones. When you play AJ Dillon, you get a piece of that Packers backfield, which is attractive, but then you also get that absolute home run play if Jones misses time. So I think he's an awesome pick, given the way we started with wide receiver. And, the more I'm looking at this squad, the fact that we followed up the 6th round with Chris Godwin, who has kind of that lingering injury discount, man, I'm excited about the upside of this squad because we followed with Tom Brady and Dak Prescott both in the window. So stacking Brady with Godwin differently than how we played with the Buccaneers offense in the prior draft. And I really, other than missing on elite tight end, which, I typically like to do, and we didn't do in either of these drafts. So feels weird for me. These teams will stand out in my portfolio as being a little different than what I typically build because of the on clock pressure that we were facing and also trying to agree on picks with only a 30-second timer. But I'm giving us an A+ through 8 rounds on this one, Dave.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a good start through 8 rounds. Just to call back a little bit to the talk about AJ Dillon, I think one of the other things that we could see this year is AJ Dillon getting somewhat involved in the passing game as a receiver out of the backfield. Maybe we see Aaron Jones catching some more passes too, but I think that we might see Dillon catching more than we're accustomed to or people might think. So just another way that he could kind of boost his value as one of our earlier running backs on this squad. So break down how we close things out.
Okay, yeah. So getting into those, league winning rounds, trying to find some players to, potentially, give us multiple weeks in the flex, or just truly break out. We went death by 1,000 paper cuts at the tight end position with Dawson Knox in round 9, Pat Freiermuth in round 11, and Austin Hooper in round 15. I did give you the soundbite of Austin Hooper being 2022 Dalton Schultz, so we'll have to see if that comes true. And Dave told us that he was very into Hooper. So if you're going to make a 3 tight end build in any format, he should be on your radar. At the wide receiver position over the back half of the draft, we do get George Pickens, who's riding that rocket ship up the draft boards a couple rounds further than the last time we checked in on him. Nico Collins in round 13, I think is exactly a perfect fit for this squad as well, and kind of a different way to play, the young wide receiver breakout than Pickens, but at a 3-round discount. And then we finish up that position with Curtis Samuel, who actually did post a couple of catches in the preseason game the other night and looks to be healthy. I think with Samuel, you're just looking for those big plays that he would break. I don't think that he will probably out-target Jahan Dotson in that offense. But, if the team's transitioning towards Brian Robinson and away from Antonio Gibson and maybe even away as a result from J.D. McKissick, it is possible that Samuel could figure in as the maybe number 3 target getter on the team, although I'd expect that number to be low with a sub 15% target market share, probably. But, when you can take it to the house, that's all you're looking for in round 17. And then our cheat code in both of these drafts, again, ends up being Ty Montgomery with the wide receiver eligibility. The only other position left to review there, Dave, then is the running backs. And we started with Breece Hall and A.J. Dillon very early in the draft, waiting all the way until round 12 to address the position again. We do go with the aforementioned Brian Robinson there, rookie who seems to really have gained a lot of favor. And if nothing else, he's going to be, the early down and short yardage back for Washington. They should be an improved offense with Carson Wentz, with Dotson joining the squad and retaining McKissick. So, perhaps we can get a couple of multiple touchdown games from Robinson, even though he might not be involved in the passing game. Raheem Mostert's probably the key to this squad really breaking out at this position, with Breece Hall and A.J. Dillon being exciting at the top. We are going to kind of look for that third guy to give us another score that can alternate in, also to cover up the buys and figure into the flex. And, Mostert, he's just that big play waiting to happen in Miami. The familiarity with Mike McDaniel and that offense, I think we've talked about it multiple times on pods recently. Just doesn't make sense how he's so cheap. To me, he should be going above guys like Alexander Madison, but you find him, multiple rounds cheaper. And then Darrell Williams in round 16. We don't know really who the running back 2 in Arizona will be, but we do know that position is one that we want exposure to based off of James Conner's injury history and the fact that multiple different big backs have had double-digit touchdowns in this offense over the past couple of years. Conner last year, Kenyon Drake the year before. Why not Darrell Williams in 2022? So yeah, Dave, I like both of these squads. We're going to have to fast draft some more Pomeranians before this thing fills up. I doubt it will even take 24 hours. But if you don't want to play the Pomeranian, you want to go after bigger fish, Underdog has opened up some other really exciting contests. I dipped my toes into the Mastiff waters earlier today, so we'll have to check in on that draft. 72 entries, $2,500 a pop, with a $35,000 grand prize, and the top 24 all paying out $4,500 or more. That, of course, is a slow draft. Not going to put myself under live draft pressure with that one. And then Dave, also just trying to fill up that Best Ball Mania 3. I know we're both hammering that. Our whole team here at RotoViz is. Plenty of great content. Really want to give a big shout out not only to Sean, who has been an absolute force with Best Ball content this offseason, but so much other great work being done. Michael Dubner coming out with the Best Ball Bible, Calm and Zach, everything they're doing with their Best Ball show each week. Just tons of work that we would want to shine a light on. So make sure you go to rotoviz.com, check out all of the rankings. I just updated my 2022 redraft rankings, Best Ball rankings on there. It's the best value in the game. And you can get a discount with promo code RV Radio 2022 anytime you want.
Thank you for listening to the RotoViz Fantasy Football Show. Send us questions at rvffshow@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at Dave Caban FF and at CPatrickNFL. Leave us a voicemail at 978-615-9214 and make sure to rate, review, and subscribe.